Welcome to the Better Together podcast. I'm your host, Kyla, and today we're going to be talking all about personalities, and specifically the Myers-Briggs personality test, which I took, and I'm going to go over my results with everybody. But before we get into that, I think at the beginning of each episode, I want to just do a little check-in from the previous episode and give you life updates and things like that. So the first thing I want to say is if everybody can have a little bit of patience with me as I adjust to this new medium. It's a little awkward talking to yourself. Obviously, I know people are going to be listening, but there's an adjustment period, and as I continue to record myself and release episodes, I promise you things will sound smoother and better. But please have some patience and give me some time as I am figuring out and learning this myself. I also wanted to share something that kind of inspired me to even start something like this, put myself out and be vulnerable like this, which is I was listening to a podcast, I think it was a few months back, where I heard there was a guest on the podcast, and I heard someone say that, you know, in order to be in this space and to put your voice out there, you have to know and recognize that your voice deserves to be heard. So this is very scary for me to be putting my voice out here like this and putting myself out there to be judged in kind of a way. So I want to say that a big reason for this is I believe my voice deserves to be heard, and I believe that I have good advice to share. Obviously, everything I say is based on my own personal experiences, and everything should be taken with a grain of salt because, again, these are just my opinions based off of my experiences. I'm not a professional, and I'm just sharing based off of things I've gone through. So that is that. So again, today is all about personality types. I want to go over the history of the Myers-Briggs personality test and how that originated, and then I'll be going through my own results as well as sharing with you what I thought my results would be before taking the test. So let's get started. At the beginning of World War II, Isabel Myers, who was initially a crime writer, stumbled upon an intriguing article in Digital Digest. The piece explored the concept of aligning people with suitable jobs, and this sparked an interest in Myers, who was eager to explore the concept further. So she turned to her mother, Catherine Briggs, who had a keen interest in the ideas of Carl Jung. And for those of you who don't know Carl Jung, he was a Swiss psychologist who was heavily influenced by Sigmund Freud's theories. He was best known for creating what's called analytical psychology and distinguishing people between introverts and extroverts. So with Briggs' interest in Carl Jung, the mother-daughter duo partner up and create a series of questions that aim to describe people into distinct categories discerning between introverts and extroverts, thinkers and feelers, among other defining traits, thus creating the Myers-Briggs personality test. This test would go on to become one of the most widely embraced assessments globally. There are 16 personality types, and each have a variation of letters, which means something, and then a name for it. But again, depending on the test you take, the name might be different, and I'll go into that in a little bit. So the 16 personality types are ISTJ, known as the inspector, and that's the name I'm talking about that can change depending on what test you take, but the inspector. And that personality type is reserved and practical. They tend to be loyal, orderly, and traditional. Then there's ISTP, also known as the crafter, which is a highly independent person. They enjoy new experiences that provide firsthand learning. Then there's ISFJ, also known as the protector. Warm-hearted and dedicated, they are always ready to protect the people they care about. ISFP, also known as the artist. Easygoing and flexible, they tend to be reserved and artistic. INFJ, which is the advocate, creative and analytical, and they are considered one of the rarest Myers-Briggs types. INFP, which is the mediator, idealistic with high values. They strive to make the world a better place. INTJ, known as the architect, is highly logical and both very creative and analytical. INTP, which is the thinker, quiet and introverted. They are known for having a rich inner world. ESTP, the persuader, which is outgoing and dramatic. They enjoy spending time with others and focusing on the here and now. ESTJ, which is the director, assertive and rule-oriented. They have high principles and a tendency to take charge. ESFP, known as the performer, is outgoing and spontaneous, and they enjoy taking center stage. ESFJ, the caregiver, soft-hearted and outgoing. They tend to believe the best about other people. ENFP, the champion, charismatic and energetic. They enjoy situations where they can put their creativity to work. ENFJ, the giver, loyal and sensitive. They're known for being understanding and generous. ENTP, the debater, highly inventive. They love being surrounded by ideas and tend to start many projects but may struggle to finish them. ENTJ, the commander, outspoken and confident. They are great at making plans and organizing projects. Before I get into my results, I just want to say that the online version of the Myers-Briggs personality test is not official, and in order to take an official Myers-Briggs assessment, it needs to be done by trained professionals. So the test I took was on 16personalities.com, which I'll link below in the description for anyone interested in taking the test as well. So I personally thought that I would get INFJ, which is the advocate. They're the creative and analytical, and they are considered one of the rarest Myers-Briggs. The reason I kind of thought this was just because I am a Virgo, and I'm very analytical and logical in my thinking, but I also am a very creative person. I've always been more on the artistic side, the creative side. So with that made sense to me that I would have a mix of creative and analytical. But I was wrong. I did not get that one. What I did get was ENFJ, known as the protagonist or the giver. So that type is described as loyal and sensitive, known for being understanding and generous, inspiring, optimistic, readily taking action to do what they feel is right, which very much resonates with the type of person I am, I would say, because I am very loyal to the people I love, my friends and my family, and I tend to be a more go with the flow type of person. I don't like a lot of drama. So the way I interpret being understanding and generous, I interpret that as if something dramatic happened in in a friend group, or with a family member or friend, whatever it is, I usually am pretty forgiving, and I don't really like to make a big deal of things, which can be a good thing and a bad thing depending on what the situation is, but tend to be more easygoing and understanding of whatever's going on with whatever the situation is. And that also obviously depends on what the situation is, but just generally speaking, I am a very optimistic person. I'm very hopeful about things. Even when I'm sad or depressed or anxious or feeling more down and negative, I still have some sort of, hopeful, optimistic outlook on things. Readily taking action to do what they feel is right is very on point for me. If I feel like there is something wrong in the world, or there's something that I can do to help someone, generally I like to help people, and I like to do things based off what I believe is right in the world. I'm going to be going over most of my results, but I'll kind of skip over a few that I feel like will be kind of boring for everybody else to listen to. First, I wanted to read my exact percentages in my results. So it's split up between extroverted, introverted, intuitive, observant, thinking, feeling, judging, turbulent. I'm 60% extroverted, I'm 67% intuitive, I'm 51% feeling, 96% judging, and then I'm 67% assertive. People with ENFJ personality type, the protagonists, feel called to serve a greater purpose in life. Thoughtful and idealistic, ENFJs strive to have a positive impact on other people and the world around them. These personalities rarely shy away from an opportunity to do the right thing, even when doing it so is far from easy. That I very much align with, because I even feel like my whole career that I've gotten into was based off of helping people and telling important stories. Journalism, my photography, film, all have to do with telling important stories. ENFJs are born leaders, which explains why these personalities can be found among many notable politicians, coaches, and teachers. Their passion and charisma allow them to inspire others not just in their careers, but in every arena of their lives, including their relationships. ENFJs possess the unique ability to remain hopeful in the face of difficulties, always remembering that there is something to be grateful for. When I am in the hardest of times, whether it's like a death in my family or job stuff, I always, like, if I start complaining too much about something, and I don't want to say complaining because I think it's good to like release those emotions, but you know, when I'm going on and on about something in a negative aspect, there's part of me that always like comes back to, okay, what's the thing I'm grateful for? Even though this thing sucks right now, there's something within this situation that I'm still grateful for. ENFJs tend to be vocal about their values, including authenticity and altruism. When something strikes them as unjust or wrong, they speak up, but they rarely come across as brash or pushy, as their sensitivity and insight guide them to speak in ways that resonate with others. So that's kind of what I was saying earlier. Like if something doesn't feel right to me, I will speak up about it. And I think it's important for anybody to do that. Like if something isn't feeling right to you, well, I will say too, like it's also like when something doesn't feel right, or I notice something is off in a situation or in an environment, it's very hard for me to brush it off. It's once I am aware of something, and it's like it's hard for me to not speak up or and not show how I'm feeling. And that can be good in some situations, but it can also be bad in other situations, because I don't want to, sometimes I don't have the control to change, you know, everything. A good example of this is everything going on with the state of the world is very scary. And sometimes I get really stuck in my head about everything going on and not knowing how to help. And you being an individual or one single person can't change the state of everything. So that's something that's hard for me, that I have a lot of anxiety around, which I'm sure a lot of people have anxiety around that. Obviously, it's scary times right now, but not knowing how to help in that situation and do, you know, we can do our little things, but like you don't always have control over certain things. So I think that's where it can get a little negative for me. Generally speaking, ENFJs are motivated by a sincere wish to do the right thing rather than a desire to manipulate or have power over other people. Even when they disagree with someone, they search for common ground. The result is that people with the ENFJ personality type can communicate with an eloquence and sensitivity that are nearly impossible to ignore, particularly when they speak about matters that are close to their hearts. Also, I wanted to go over some famous people that have the same personality type. So Barack Obama, Oprah Winfrey, Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lawrence, Maya Angelou, Morpheus from The Matrix, Skylar White from Breaking Bad. Anyway, so those are just a few of the famous people that have the same personality type as me. Also, I'm curious if you guys have the same personality type, or what is your personality type. So let's go to my strengths and weaknesses. Receptive. People with the ENFJ personality type, the protagonists, have strong opinions, but they're far from closed-minded. They recognize the importance of allowing others to express themselves fully. Even when they don't agree with someone, they recognize that that person's right to voice their truth. I agree with that. I feel like I do, even when someone has like a different opinion than me, like let's say it's political, if you have the opposite political view as me, it's such a touchy subject, but I also feel like there should be some more common ground. It's okay if you think this way and I think another way. That's part of being human. Maybe you're not someone I would particularly like align the same values with if you have certain political beliefs, I guess, but I will always listen, and I'm not going to judge you for those beliefs. For our beliefs come from, how we grew up and what our backgrounds are and all of that kind of stuff. So I do agree with that, and that's just an example, and I'm not going to bring in any political stuff into this conversation, just a small example. Reliable. Few things bother ENFJs more than the prospect of letting down a person or cause they believe in. People with this personality type can be counted on to see their promises and responsibilities through, even when it's difficult to do so. All right, so passionate. ENFJ personalities brim with interest, and they take great pleasure in pursuing their hobbies, whether that's hiking, cooking, dancing, growing, houseplants, or something else entirely. As a result, they rarely find themselves at a loss for something interesting to do. I agree with this. I feel like I am always having some sort of interest in something and like honing in on that, whether it's reading or like working out or, doing some sort of creative project with painting or working with clay or, whatever it is, I get full into it. And same with this podcast and even my stuff I do at work. Altruistic. ENFJs are known for harboring a deep desire to be a force for positive change in both their personal lives and their professional pursuits. Their unwavering inclination toward fairness often compels people with this personality type to advocate for those who are unable to do so for themselves. Their joy lies in seeing those around them thrive, making their altruism heartfelt and sincere. Charismatic, determined, and inspiring. ENFJs often find their way into leadership roles, whether they're captain of the softball team or a leader on the world stage. They excel at engaging in conversation, captivating people's attention, and rallying people together behind a common goal. ENFJ personalities also have a profound capacity for empathy that oftentimes causes the people they come across to feel truly seen and valued, further bolstering their natural allure. So I'd be curious, friends of mine listening to this, do you agree with that? Do you feel truly seen and valued? I'm kind of kidding, but if you do feel that way, that's awesome, and I'm happy that I can provide that. Those are my strengths, and now we're going to my personality type weaknesses. So unrealistic. Many ENFJs put pressure on themselves to right every wrong that they encounter, but no matter how hard these personalities try, it just isn't realistic for them to solve all the world's problems. If they aren't careful, they can spread themselves too thin and be left unable to help anyone. I relate to this so much because I will, again, like I said this earlier, I get very wrapped up in bigger worldly issues that I'm never going to be able to solve myself. I remember when I was just starting to get into photography and I was about to be going to school for photography and studying that, my biggest goal, and I would say I think it was 18 at this time, 17 or 18, my biggest goal was to make a difference in the world, which I think is a beautiful idea, but I also think it's very naive because to me, making a difference in the world had to be big. Couldn't be like small. Like I needed my name somehow known that I was going to be making this big difference. And I think some people can do that. I think that's awesome. But that was a little over my head. Now I'm more so like, if I can make a small difference in even one person's life, or if I can feel like I'm helping another person, even if it's just one person, that's all I need. I don't need to be solving the entire world's problems and making a difference in every single person's life. No. But at 18, my brain was like, I am going to do that. Overly idealistic. ENFJ personalities tend to have clear ideas about what's right and what's wrong. They often think that everyone shares these fundamental principles, or at least that everyone should share these principles. So it can come as a genuine shock to ENFJs when people violate their core values such as truth or justice. Condescending. People with this personality type enjoy teaching others, particularly about the causes and beliefs that matter so much to them. But at times, ENFJ's attempts to enlighten others may come across as patronizing, not the most effective strategy for persuading other people, unfortunately. I do agree with this. I feel like there are times if someone around me is not as motivated as me or is genuinely feeling like a little lost, I will assert myself and try to give them every single solution that I think will work, when in reality maybe that is not the way to go about things, and maybe pushing them to a place they don't even want to go, or making them feel bad. So I feel like I have definitely done that. Intense. When it comes to self-improvement, ENFJs are rarely short of energy or determination, but they may not recognize that not everyone shares these qualities. At times, these personalities may push others to make changes that they aren't ready for. This is exactly what the example I just referred to is basically saying this. Or simply aren't interested in making the first place. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said, which is hilarious. Overly empathetic. Compassion is among this personality type's greatest strengths, but ENFJs have a tendency to take on other people's problems as their own, a habit that can leave them emotionally and physically exhausted. In my closest relationships, I feel like I take on things that are not necessarily my own problems to take on and that I don't have control over. I have to remind myself constantly that I only have control over how I feel about a situation and how I react to a situation. That's really all we have control over. And it sucks, but it's also kind of gives me at least a little bit of ease knowing that when I'm trying to control everything, that I simply can't, and it's impossible, and these are the two things that I have control over, and that is it. Okay, so now we're going to skip, there's a section for romantic relationships. I didn't think that would be entertaining for everybody, but if that's something that you guys are interested in hearing, we can go into that. But for now, I'm going to skip it, and we're going to go to friendships. Connecting with others makes people with the ENFJ personality type feel alive and purposeful. It's no surprise, then, that they are anything but apathetic about friendship. ENFJs put sincere, dedicated effort into staying close with their friends. For these personalities, friendships are far from expendable or insightful. Instead, they're a key component of a life well lived. As I've gotten older, I've gotten a lot more picky about my friends, and I put a lot of energy into my friendships. And if I feel like someone's not giving the same as I'm giving, that makes me separate myself from them. Also, and this is something we'll get into in future episodes, but friend breakups and things like that, or not being as close to someone I was close to, those are very, very hard for me because my friendships are really important. My out-of-state friends, I'm in New York, but I'm from Michigan, and most of my friends are still in Michigan. or have moved back, whatever. And I kind of suck at staying in touch with people, but I will say my closest friends, we don't really need to stay in touch constantly to, get back to the same place we were at. But I'm better at catching up and staying close to people that I am in the same state as. But I do I still, take care of those friendships, I think. A wealth of perspectives. Few personality types can match ENFJ's sincere desire to know people. For these personalities, discovering someone's quirks and opinions and hopes and follies is one of life's purest pleasures. Most ENFJs can't help but be fascinated by other worldviews, even those with which they wholeheartedly disagree. Encountering a wealth of perspective is what keeps life interesting for these types. Consequently, ENFJs surround themselves with all sorts of friends and acquaintances. In fact, they're the most likely personality type to have more than one friend group for different aspects of their lives. From work friends to gym buddies to partying companions, ENFJs love to relax and unwind to spend time with friends, diving into a good conversation and getting to know what makes their friends tick. That said, most ENFJ personalities find it difficult to respect anyone who takes shortcuts, disrespects others, or refuses to challenge the status quo. Instead, they find it easiest to connect with people who share their core ideals, particularly their commitment to doing the right thing and leaving the world better than they found it. It is with these closest friends that ENFJs truly open up, sharing their vulnerabilities and their most precious dreams for their lives. Very interesting. I think that the whole thing that this says about being fascinated by, other worldviews and getting in debates and discovering everything about a person. I am constantly curious, and I've always, again, it's all part of storytelling too. I like to know everything I can about someone, especially if it's a new person that I'm getting to know. ENFJ personalities' passion for altruism often leads them to extend their circle of influence beyond their immediate group, offering assistance to others within their network and creating opportunities where none existed. And I will say, I feel like I don't have like a core friend group. I think that my friends are kind of all scattered within different friend groups, and maybe that's just like, I feel like that's kind of what this personality type, the protagonist, is kind of describing. Through thick and thin, ENFJs can be among the best friends anyone could wish for. Kind-hearted and trustworthy, people with this personality type dedicate incredible amounts of energy and attention to their friendships. They want their friends to feel not merely validated but supported, not merely heard but understood. From their closest friends to their wide circle of acquaintances, ENFJ personalities approach relationships with a sense of purpose, creating bonds that are not easily broken. I have always said that I hate surface level anything. If I'm going to be friends with someone, it can't just be, or have a relationship with someone or whatever it is, in order for it to be maintained and to go beyond, it has to be more than surface level. I don't like the, hey, how are you? And that's it. Like, it needs to be, I like deep conversations and getting to know one another and doing stuff on a deeper level rather than doing things on kind of that surface level. They can also be trusted to show up in ways both large and small, whether by taking time after a grueling day at work to help a friend spruce up their resume, or by putting together a weekend-long destination birthday party for a friend who needs a boost. Nothing makes ENFJ personalities happier than seeing the people they care about doing well, and few things could stop them from trying to help make that happen. Finding balance. While ENFJs enjoy lending a helping hand, they aren't always happy with the results. The truth is that some people don't have the energy or the drive to take full advantage of their offers to help, or they simply might not want to. For example, their friend might ignore that resume advice, or they might decide to kick back and relax instead of using that new resume to send out job applications. When this happens, people with ENFJ personality type may feel unappreciated, frustrated, or resentful. They may even become judgmental in an effort to push their friend forward, an approach that all too often backfires. Career paths. When it comes to choosing a career, people with the ENFJ personality type find fulfillment in doing what they love most, helping others. They also prefer careers where their charisma is an important factor for success. With their natural charm, creativity, and drive, ENFJs can find many different ways to serve and uplift others in nearly any work environment, whether they're behind a gleaming table in a corporate boardroom or behind the counter at a beloved local coffee shop. ENFJ personalities rarely run out of inspiration or opportunity in their search for meaningful work. I agree with that. If I feel like I'm not being utilized in the workplace or in my career opportunities, that like makes me feel burnt out, which is weird. Like if I'm not doing enough, that's when I start to feel burnt out. Or if I don't feel like I'm needed, then that doesn't feel good in the workplace to me. Earning their place. Thanks to their emotional intelligence and social skills, ENFJs can excel in nearly any people-oriented field, such as human resources, event management, recruiting, or public relations. That said, they tend to feel especially motivated in positions where they can guide others to learn, grow, and become more independent. Many people with the ENFJ personality type gravitate toward careers with an altruistic purpose, such as social work, teaching, counseling, coaching, healthcare, or public interest law. Interesting. I feel like my goal has always, within my career, has always been to tell important stories in order for people to be more aware of certain situations that they wouldn't be aware of if the story had never been told. Rather than fading into the background, people with this personality type are known for their leadership abilities, and they often find themselves in positions of influence. ENFJs can be found in public office and at the helm of all sorts of organizations, from nonprofits and religious groups to scrappy startups and corporate empires. ENFJs may also find themselves in jobs as consultants, advisors, and managers. Wherever they work, they rarely lose sight of their core mission: to improve people's lives. These types intuitively pick up on the needs of their clients, customers, or employees, and then they draw on their creativity to meet these varied needs in innovative, unexpected ways. As a result, ENFJs are able to bring sincerity, integrity, and even idealism to jobs in sales, customer service, marketing, advertising, and product development. Finding the deeper issues. Focused and driven people with the ENFJ personality type are always up for a good challenge. That said, certain challenges motivate them more than others. Work that is repetitive, isolated, or otherwise constrained can be frustrating for them, as these roles don't allow them to exercise their vibrant creativity or make contributions that feel meaningful. These personalities want to see the impact they're having, not to plug away at tasks all on their own. Yeah, I feel this. I do feel that. I feel like it goes along with what I just said, like feeling underutilized in a position, or feeling like I'm not doing enough or have an important enough role in something, and then I feel like that doesn't feel good, or I feel like I'm not doing what I wanted to do, or I'm not succeeding in my career goals, I guess. Or in turn feeling kind of burnout. ENFJs feel fulfilled and energized by work that allows them to step back and reflect on the big picture. For these types, leaving a positive legacy is a key priority. This doesn't mean that they have to solve a problem as grand as world hunger, although knowing them, they certainly would like to. But many ENFJ personalities do use their professional energy to resolve at least some of the deeper issues that people in their community are facing. In their heart of hearts, ENFJs want to witness the positive effects of their work, to feel and experience the gratitude and appreciation of the people they have helped. Yeah, I like to see what my work can do for someone, and I also like to get feedback, whether it's a criticism or if it's something being said that's good. It doesn't matter. Like, I just want, some sort of feedback to know that what I'm doing is either on the right path or I need to change something to do better. Versatile and insightful, ENFJs bring a wealth of strengths to their career. At times, they may feel stuck or bored, wishing that their daily task could make more of an obvious difference in the world. But with their altruistic, creative spirits, ENFJ personalities almost inevitably find ways to use their work, wherever it might be, to contribute to the greater good. And I feel like that's very on point, because I'm not necessarily getting that at my, full-time 9-to-5 job, but I'm using everything I know and have learned and have wanted to do in my career and using it towards this podcast. So that's kind of something. And also, when I was in grad school for my graduate thesis, I made a film, and that felt like a very big thing that I had been wanting to do for a long time, and a major career thing for me. There's also workplace habits. I feel like I'm going to skip over that because we're running kind of long on this. But again, if you want me to go into the romantic relationships category, the parenthood category, and the workplace habits category, because those are the 3 that I didn't go through, I can do a part 2 of this. So let's just go to the conclusion. Along the way, you may have muttered to yourself, wow, this is so accurate, it's a little creepy, or finally, someone understands me. If you feel understood right now, it's because you are. Years of research have given us fresh insight into the unique strengths and challenges of ENFJs like you. We understand your creativity and passion and your commitment to doing the right thing. But we also understand the dark side of your personality type, the nagging fear that you might not reach your full potential and make the most of your one wild and precious life. ENFJ's gifts include idealism, determination, and the ability to envision a better future, but they don't just want to hear what makes them great. These personalities are committed to actually using these gifts to serve a greater purpose. That's why we've made it our mission to help ENFJs like you not only appreciate your gift, but also make the most of them. Also, a fun fact is I have a twin brother, and he's taken this same 16 personalities type test, and he's gotten this same personality, which is really interesting. So I'm maybe in the future I'll do an episode with him where we will go over our personality and talk about things that we relate or we do different based off of this personality test. So if that's interesting to you, please let me know. If you liked listening to the personality test episode, I'd love for you guys to share your results if you end up taking the test. Again, I will link it below in the description. I want to know your personality types. I want to know what you disagree with, what you agree with based off of what I said, what interests you about this topic. Thank you once again for tuning in, and please give me a like or a comment below and follow me on my personal Instagram, which is Kyla_Milberger, and the podcast Instagram, which is the_bettertogether_podcast. And you can send in questions or comments at thebettertogetherpod@gmail.com, or you can just send me a message on either my personal Instagram or the podcast Instagram. But my biggest thing is I want to hear from you guys. I want to hear what you're liking, what you're not liking, what kinds of topics you want to listen to, if you want a part 2 to this, whatever. I am all open to hearing. I just want this to be the best listening experience possible. So again, thank you for tuning in.